what's the best way to address data fragmentation?
How are you defining data fragmentation?
I'm going to say best is the problematic word, but I guess all of them are problematic. So I think there's a couple of things there. First, I would say sort of the trend to centralize everything into a single warehouse, I think is fading, right? And I think there's much more of a mentality now in federated data sources and data fabrics, data meshes, whatever you would call it, because the time and effort, energy, and cost needed to centralize all that data as more, like I said, more and more sensors, more and more telemetry, more and more data sources. It's just getting to be, not feasible to do that anymore. So you need to look at tools and techniques that help you take a more federated approach. And I'll stop there. That'll keep it pretty basic.
Yeah, so look, I think depending upon how you define data fragmentation, I'll take it from the perspective of, for 100 years, we've been trying to build out customer 360 profiles, right? Because that is data fragmentation of our customers are all over the map through structured and unstructured information. So understanding, again, why do you need the data that's across these different fragmented environments? What's your outcome and use case? And then using the technologies, things like correlation, for instance, to relate data across disparate data sources to kind of start building those relationships. Someday the marketplace will solve for lineage at a really technical level. There's many good companies out there that are doing data lineage today, but I think the really complex understanding of data fragmentation from a column to column perspective and having true data lineage of transformations from source to target, all that stuff, is still something that technology and maybe Gen AI and agentic AI is going to help us do that. So I would say address the data fragmentation from a use case by use case perspective, utilize existing technologies such as correlation or clustering on the unstructured side to bring data together, show similar information across the different data sources, and then start building out responsibility from an ownership perspective around the data definitions, or use technology around data definitions that add more and more metadata, going back to that metadata piece earlier, so that you can understand how the data relates together.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points, and I agree. It's a little bit of a loaded topic, and there's different levels of definition there, so I think that's a good caveat as well. We only have about 12 minutes left, so I want to make sure we have some time to cover our last topic, and then we can go into some more questions. So based on everything we've talked about today, and to provide some guidance for organizations that are just getting started or kind of scaling their early efforts here, from your perspective, what do you think are the right first steps? Like, we've covered a lot, but where do you think is the right place to start?
If I had to give a quick start to this, and that I would say, evaluate your organization's maturity and take a look at a lot of the frameworks that AWS has available in white papers. So the AWS Cloud Adoption Journey, there's also a white paper on modern data architectures. There's a lot of paths you can take, but it'll come down to what are your organization's needs, and then selecting which of those paths and architectures meet the needs that your business requires.
Yeah, I think we've touched on a number of topics here that are kind of aligned to this question. But the first thing I'd say is I like to break down big problems into smaller problems. So the 4 categories I mentioned before is one possible way you could do that lens. Another option is to look at it more top down, or AWS terminology, working backwards. Like, start with what are the outcomes that you want, what's the goal, and work backwards from there. That's one easy approach to start. And then I'll also just throw in, with if you have Cohesity or you as your data protection solution, right, you have that secondary data source that you can tap into right now that allows you to start experimenting without thinking about primary and production data and impacts to that.